Yeah, we know we're late. Shut up already.
Yeah.
We're men, and we're not afraid to say that we love other men.
What up, G?
My life is nothing I thought it should be and everything I was worried it would become, because for 50 seconds I thought there was monsters on the world.
What Augean stable of misery do you live in if you fantasize about driving a bus or sitting on a bench? What's next, a breakfast eating simulator? Oh, careful not to burn your digital toast. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go play an office simulator. Oh, no wait, that's my job.
Whoa, I think I just figured something out, Beavis. What? This sucks. Yeah, it really sucks. This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
Don't say no for an answer. There's no
Can I see more white women getting clotheslined, please?
People don't understand. People don't understand. People like me. 'Cause these eyes can see right through you. Don't be surprised.
So Snoop Dogg wins the match because Shane McMahon blew his knee out.
Damn, that was bad, bro.
People don't understand. People don't understand. No, people don't understand. People don't understand. No, people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here for another episode of the Ballroom Podcast, episode 104. And I'm joined here tonight with a couple of guys you may know and someone you probably haven't seen in a significant period of time who has joined us here for this episode here tonight. Our good buddy John Hitshaw, John H, whatever you want to call yourself. You're back here again. Now, some of you guys may remember John. He was here for an episode nearly 2 years ago. I gave him an open invite. We had a good time. He never came back, so he decided that 2 years later he could finally grace us with his presence again. How you doing tonight, John?
I'm doing good. Most of the time I'm usually like going to sleep by the time you start, but I'm off tomorrow for Juneteenth, so I'm here.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
a lot of people got Juneteenth off, so it's like, now that we have to pretend like it's a real holiday. Remember Biden made it a federal holiday a couple of years back, and it was this whole thing that's really It was a real thing that started. Yeah, it's originated in Texas, and then it was like a Texas state holiday, and now it's become like a national holiday because I think black people think that this is the day that slavery ended when it really wasn't. Like, it's just a whole thing. We can get into it later. But yeah, it's
now a federal holiday though, so if you have it off, you have it off.
And for most people, it's just an extra day off, so enjoy it while you can. Also joining us here tonight is Orange Hat Sparrow. Is that what you're renaming yourself now?
Oh shit! I forgot to change it. Yeah, I did a thing earlier about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Did you wear a pirate hat?
No, I didn't have it in time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So sit right there and hear a tale overlook we break. Yeah, I think I think they're saying that my mic is off, but according to at least StreamYard, it is in fact settling. Hopefully that improves it.
Yep.
That's better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's better.
There's no like background interference.
Yeah, I have no idea what was going on there because it's showing that was picking off from the default, but I guess I have to like reset it there. By the way, if you do hear like a slight humming noise coming from my background, I think I mentioned this on Friday or Saturday, but what happened was I had a snafu with my AC. It broke last week when I was live on the 01 stream, so you notice I may have left for like 30 minutes during that show. My AC broke, and inside of my apartment was probably about nearly 90 degrees. I'm not even joking like when I say that it was that hot inside. So I had to go get a wind machine fan to fix that. I go there, I put in an order for the AC to be fixed. They originally thought they fixed it, but then it pretty much broke again like a few hours later. Then it turns out, oh yeah, actually there was a leak in the system and we have to go fix the leak. But until then, we're going to give you a temporary AC, which is no joke, made half of my apartment about 70 degrees comfortably and the other half of the apartment about 90 degrees unbearable. And this is what I've been living with for at least the last week. So fun times over here. So.
Wow, I feel bad complaining about my 90-degree weather when I have like AC in my car and live in a central AC home, and so yeah, but yeah, it's been unbearable here. I can't stand it, so I'm going to complain anyway. But yep, I'm doing fine. I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Rob. Hi guys. You guys probably have seen me if you've watched the show before. By the way, I was going to say this in chat earlier today, but I was like 102 episodes into the Barroom podcast. Is this a religious show? You know, like, no, Rob, there's not people that are Christian that constantly are up. Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly, right. No, that's another show that we'll do later on. But we'll talk about that show a little bit later. Yeah, so we're here tonight. We're here on Rumble, even though I know Rumble was having some major issues earlier as well. But we're here on Rumble. We're here on X. We're here on YouTube. All three platforms. I see a good buddy Keith is already on the Rumble side. It says it's hot in Maine. Maine hot is nowhere near Georgia hot. I'll just put it to you like that. I mean, I don't know what the heat is over in Florida right now, but I know Georgia is pretty unbearable. I think last week when I went out there, I think it was like 95 degrees, plus the heat index was like way over 100. I thought to myself, it's probably not safe for me to be outside right now. Maybe I should just wait until like about, I don't know, 9 before leaving my house, because that seems to be like the safe point, but it was pretty brutal over here. So who else do we have going on there? So I guess we can go ahead and introduce some of our guys who are listening in the chat. Neozoic is here saying, Hardy Barroom crew, joining us. Good folks in the chat. He has a question we can start off here. It says, which Walt Disney classic animated musical would you rather watch? The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, or The Lion King? I'm assuming you mean the original ones, not these live action remakes that they've been promoting over the last few years. I would go with The Lion King, and I say this as someone who's just generally not a major fan of Disney animated classics. So
yeah, I haven't watched these movies since I was like a kid. But I'd probably go Beauty and the Beast because I think that's the one I saw the most.
John, which one would you go with?
I haven't watched them in forever. I think I'll say Aladdin, more or less because the video game back on Sega back in the day. I just remember playing that a lot.
Mm-hmm. And Lion King had a video game too. It also had several copyrighted knockoffs too, if you guys remember back in those days as well. So, Orange Chat, which one would you pick?
Out of these four, after just recapping them all in my head, I would choose Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin.
Awesome.
Because, well, Aladdin because of Robin Williams. But Beauty and the Beast is a close second. Lion King is actually fourth place in these four. If I had to choose out all of these four, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, and Lion King. In that order.
I think I heard a joke not too long ago. It's like, whenever I'm sad, I just play Bambi. And I go to the point where Bambi's mom dies and I'm happy again.
So
Oh man. Bonus question for Neozoic says here, Hans Zimmer soundtrack. What is your favorite? I gotta be honest with you. I found I think I added the Wonder Woman theme from like the recent movies to my set. It's actually not that bad of a theme song, especially with the whole orchestra playing it. But I mean, Hans Zimmer. There's so many songs that you can pick there. Rob, which one comes to your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just go with Batman Begins. That was a good one.
Orange.
Hans Zip. Jesus, you are making the dude does some good shit.
Yeah.
I like Neil's like ability to act like the most broad question in the entire world. I expect you to just like come down with one. And
if I have to choose Chevalier from Da Vinci Code,
Interesting pick. John, did you pick one?
I'm Googling stuff right now. I know he did some stuff from Inception. That's the only thing that pops up.
All right. Leslie Tarkin here saying hello to all you lovely people, and she would actually pick The Lion King, so a correct answer there. Spencer's also here. He's going with Aladdin Forever. I'm assuming he does not mean the Will Smith one, which I don't know how that film made $1 billion. I still cannot figure it out to this day, but somehow people really like that movie, and I just do not understand it. What else we have here?
Because of Chinese audience?
It could have been, maybe. I mean, I guess Chinese people like giant CGI blue black people. Like, that's the only thing I can go with. Leslie says that bonus sensor Pearl Harbor. The movie is bad, but the music was great. I agree. Vanya is joining us here tonight. I know the Celtics just won the NBA championship last night, and now basketball's over. And it was like, oh crap! Now what am I going to do with my life for the next several months until football comes around? It's like, I guess you got to watch baseball like all the rest of the schlubs. So good luck. Who else do we got here? Yes, we were very aware that we were 1 minute late to the show. John will be joining you guys in the chat today. Vanya says, I'm a Bulls fan, but yay Celtics. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. Who else do we have here? Leslie joining us there, listening to our intro. Orange Chat will be in the chat with you guys here tonight. Yes, thank you guys for actually mentioning that my wrong mic was picking up. I think I bullied you guys a few weeks ago for not pointing that out. So now you guys started to point it out at the beginning of shows, so we don't do 2 hours aimlessly. Does not have Juneteenth off. This guy, Tactus Jones. So do I. I also have to go in tomorrow. So no Juneteenth off for me. That's the perk. I guess the perk of having bank holidays, because all those obscure holidays you get off, you don't have to go into work. But when you work like regular jobs, it's like they don't give you that luxury. Yeah, exactly. When you work for the government, you don't have to deal with anything like that. Who else we got here? Leslie says AC went off a few weeks ago. It's like, yeah, I mean, the South, yeah. Especially it's bad when you're in the South and you're on like a high floor. Like anything like above like the second floor, it's just like you're basically in hell at that point. Like
I literally saw my country down there. Okay, it's a third world country with the resources you guys have. I'm just kidding.
I mean, but here's the thing though, right? So I think my thermometer in my apartment got up to about 88, 89 degrees, which is the highest I've ever seen one like ever, right? And then at the same time, I'm sitting here on Twitter and I'm listening to people in the UK complain about record heat waves, and they're complaining about 78 degrees. Like that's like a midday in San Diego, 78 degrees, and they're over here crying, talking about climate change. It's like, oh, well, we don't have an AC. Well, whose fault is that?
And it's the building. It's not ventilated well, and they're old. You don't understand. It's so hot. It's like we have old buildings too. That's not a good excuse. You just shut up. You don't know what
take your Cockney ass down to whatever British version of Walmart you can find. Go spend $60 on the AC and put it in your house and stop whining and complaining. Like, it's like 2 or 3 years now they've been complaining about, oh my god, it's like 75 degrees here and I'm hot. It's like, buy an AC.
Don't they have weirdo like regulations though? I mean, I know they're not part of the EU anymore, but they have weirdo regulations about like appliances and stuff. So it's like I
if that's
heard
the
of
case,
an AC
I mean,
in the UK.
If that's the case, once again, that's a you guys problem. It's like don't blame the sun because your government won't allow you to buy a proper AC. Like that's not how it works. Maurice
does one
saying
even
here,
get humid?
Exactly, right? Maurice says that The Lion King is the only one of the 4 movies that I could tolerate, even seeing the other 3. Yeah, like I said, I'm just not a big, like, Disney animated fan, so I'm definitely not that, 35-year-old girl who's still going to Disney World by herself as an adult buying $300 ears with sparkles on them. That's not demographic. Lion King came out 30 years ago. I feel so old now. Yeah, wait till you figure out what else came out 30 years ago. Lion King and the Aladdin Rooftop Korean says that, that was the clamshell VHS where I could rotate as a kid. Oh yeah, absolutely. Who says Leslie is a White Sox fan and a Braves fan. Makes sense of that whole situation. Or who else do we have here tonight? Global warming is real and is ruining the ozone layer. You know what else is real? ACs. Buy one. So there you go. So let's go ahead and start off with this topic because we got a few things to talk about tonight. I'm pretty sure we'll get very fiery as we go on here. But I want to start off with this one as a couple of people who escaped from the state called California. There are other people who are just now coming to the realization that California sucks and I probably shouldn't live there. So some of you guys may know Jillian Michaels, who is famous for being a fitness guru. She was part of NBC's The Biggest Loser for a number of years. I think that's where she got her claim to fame, as being a part of that show. So she's very health centric. She's a lesbian. She's lived in California for many years, and apparently over the last couple of years California has finally gotten to a point where she can no longer live there. However, listening to her to explain why she had to leave California, I don't know if this comes up the same way for you, but makes me feel like you still haven't understood that you are in fact part of the problem. And this is what you're seeing from a lot of guys now, like Bill Burr and Bill Maher and all these guys who are coming around. It's like, oh wow, the left is really starting getting wacky over these last couple of years. It's like, yeah, and you guys were part of the problem. Like, this is why we're here in the first place. So she went viral last week for an interview that she did explaining why she can no longer live in California because she disagreed with all of the rules that they were passing off there. And like I said, I'm gonna note this a couple of instances here where it's like, are the bells starting to ring here? Are you starting to put 2 and 2 together? Maybe not, because here's my objection. I think she admitted that she's living in like Texas now, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if you haven't learned your lesson, you're going to end up turning Texas into California, and then you'll be in the exact same position here in a couple of years. But listen to Julian explain why she no longer lives in California.
I grew up here. I'm a woman. I'm a gay woman. My mom's a Jew. My dad's an Arab. I have a black kid. And believe it or not, my son is half Latin, even though he doesn't look like it.
We get it. You're the worst of all worlds. But what does that have to do with California? We'll continue.
I hold 1 million cards in your game of woke victimology poker. And when I leave California, maybe you've lost your fucking mind. Just maybe. Like, when you have me running from home, maybe it's gone way too far. What was?
Now, I'll pause here for a second because you will go into deeper detail, but here's my first problem. It's like, when you leave home, do you come to the realization at any point that it's people who, majority by the demographics and the percentages and the voting outputs, vote the same way that you do, have brought in a lot of the same stuff that you're fleeing from? Does it ever click to you that maybe somewhere in your ideology that this could possibly be the problem? Orange Hat, would you see a connection here of cause and effect with a lot of the stuff going on with California recently?
Very much so.
I mean, from being in the state of New York, I think you would know this a lot better than a lot of us too, but let's go.
I may be from the state of New York, but I'm not in the liberal part of it.
Well, you're basically in the state of New York. The whole point.
My God, girl, there's not enough time. And I actually take this line from Bill and Elon Musk, and they're like, I actually haven't changed. Yes. The world around me is shifting, and I haven't moved. So some of these laws that are passing here are absolutely fucking mind-boggling in relation to crime, protecting our kids. Like, we're decriminalizing everything, which arguably I would probably be okay with, but we're not regulating any of it. Right. So it's like, okay, you're going to decriminalize sex work, but only so women can legally loiter on the streets. Like, not to keep them safe, not to have them pay taxes, not to make them, regularly check for STDs, not to take away the pimps out of the equation. It's the like, if you made that argument to me, I'd be like, well, yes, we want, of course. I mean, I could be liberal. I could go there with you. But I grew up this way. But when it's like, oh, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pass a law for LGBTQ rights so that 24-year-old men can sleep with 14-year-old boys and not have to register as a sex offender because it's just not fair to the gays. I'm like, what? It's what? Like, I don't know if you saw that one. That was like, I think early 2020 when they passed that law. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if a 24-year-old man touches my 14-year-old son, I will get a gun and take matters into my own hands. Yes. Like, you
Hey, good luck getting one of more than 10 bullets in California, though. That would be probably a problem that you would have to go through. But still, we'll continue.
Kidding? Or the fact that a 12-year-old child can be put on off-label cancer drugs to irreparably change their body. Again, if my son came to me and said, Mom, my daughter, I think I'm trans, I'd say, okay, like, you want to dress this way? You want me to call you whatever the heck you want me to address? Fine. Explore it. I love you. I'm cool. Like, do you, as long as we're safe. But we're not changing your body until it's fully developed. I'm sorry. Conversation's over. Can't get a fucking tattoo.
Exactly.
Are you crazy? It's insane. Like, I just can't. It's madness. It's madness to me. I could go on and on and on.
I'm pretty sure you can. I mean,
we
are
know.
a woman. But
you're a woman.
Here's the problem. Here's the fundamental problem. Is that, and I've seen this from a lot of people just like Julian, who have gotten to this point where it's like, oh, the left is wacky now. I can't really be with this movement anymore. Here's the problem. Because even she said it herself. It's not the cause that she's actually upset with. It's the effect. It means that she supports a lot of the same things that the left supports in general, and a lot of people in California and LA, her neck of the woods, that they support. She just doesn't like the things that she supports where they eventually lead to. So it's like she says, she has no problem with the LGBTQ community, but when the LGBTQ community starts pushing, hey, let's put kids on hormone blockers and cut off their breasts and cut off their genitalia, that's where he said, okay, now I think we've gone a little too far. It's like when the whole thing with, hey, I'm an ally of, gay people, but once you guys want to start having sex with, teenagers, that's where I pushed you far. It's like, there's always a line there. It's like, okay, this is where it's too far, but I'm pretty much okay with everything before the line, not realizing that it's your ideology that's leading to what you're now against in the first place. Because what's going to happen is that she's going to move to Texas. I think she's in Austin. Like, I think that's where all of them are moving now. And they're going to be like, okay, well, Texas has a little bit more leniency with this, and this. But fundamentally, they still have the heart of the California who left there. So over time, Texas is going to swing the exact same way as California. And next thing you know, in 15, 20 years, if you make it that far, you're going to be in the exact same position that you left in the first place. That's really what it comes down to. It's like, you're not truly learning your lesson. It's like, hey, maybe all these things that I support in order to be a good liberal is actually leading to the essentially the effect of now California is an unlivable shithole, even for somebody like me. So if it's an unlivable shithole for somebody like me, I can only imagine how someone who's in any way, shape, or form remotely right of me can possibly view the state and probably have viewed the state for the last several decades. So I want to start off with Rob here first, and then I'll go around the horn. What was your take on what Julian said here about her objections with progressivism in California and why she left in the first place?
Yeah, she very much reminds me of kind of like an oxymoron, rich hippie, which is like, you want all of the trappings of, bohemianism and your alternative lifestyle and being pro-planet and all this bullshit, right? And you push for higher taxes so that you can implement these things on a government level. Mm-hmm. And then you're upset at what the result is, having all these zoning regulations, there's all this shit that makes California miserable anyway, especially Southern California, in the LA area specifically. it's like there's all kinds of things on top of all the stuff that Jillian Michaels is talking about here. It's like on some level, I actually do feel sorry for her because she had the best of intentions and the most idealistic frame of mind when it came to California. And it was like, guess what? Those good intentions don't govern very well. You know what I mean? It's like you keep passing the buck onto the middle class and the lower class, and you have a pretty miserable place to live. Listen, I've always loved the idea of California. I think it probably has the best PR campaign of any state, kind of like just feeding people what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like 30 years ago, yeah, you could still move to California, raise a family, relatively normal US state. It has since just gone down the fucking crapper. You know what I mean? And so and look, I never lived in Washington, or I never lived in California, but I moved a year ago today from Washington State, where a lot of the same problems exist. It's just not as populated. It's not as densely populated as California is. So I got out. I would advise everybody to do the same, just because it's not tenable. It's not going to last for much. And I know they make a lot of money for the United States of America, per their economic returns, but whether either it's going to be an earthquake or there's just going to be an economic collapse. So we'll see.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the whole place just fell into the ocean. John, as someone who escaped California for Florida, I'm pretty sure you know exactly what Julian is talking about with dealing with the frustrations of living in California. So what's your take on what you have to say here?
I mean, it's the thing where California is kind of in denial with a lot of things. Even when we lived there, like, remember they had people signing petitions to like stop the rent increase, and they had all the people, they had all those ads where it's like, I was born and raised in California, but I can't live with my family here now.
Yeah.
So it's the thing where like they make in all the policies and everything else, but then they don't really counteract it. So then it just goes totally off the rails. Just like with all the stuff that she was talking about.
It's like, they're all in on supporting like this one thing, but they never think of the fallout of what happens if the thing that I want actually turns into like a reality. It's like, oh yeah, let's stop the rent increase. It's like, I don't know, maybe stop the taxes that lead to the rent increase. It's like, perhaps that's part of the problem there. It's like, I know they just passed, what was it, $20 minimum wage there, because all the fast food workers want to make $20 an hour. And then guess what? Now all you guys are out of jobs. Well, not only that, they're raising the rent, so then the restaurants are leaving now because they don't want to pay, so they're leaving the state altogether. And then if they're not leaving the state altogether, they're getting replaced by robots. It's like there's cause and then there's effect. And it's like, you guys support the cause, then you complain about the effect. It's like, are you not seeing how you got here in the first place? That's kind of my problem with California. And look, I've told this many times before. I'm born and raised in San Diego. I know all about Southern California. I've been up and down San Diego, Orange County, LA. Like, I know all the spots, right? At the same time, I've seen the same, I guess you can call it, what's the best way for it? Just because it's complete disintegration of what the state used to be versus like what it is now. A lot of people don't even realize that California was technically a red state up until like 88. Like, people don't even realize like how far ago like 88 was. That was only like 35, 36 years ago in the grand scheme of things. So in one generation, it went from being the place that voted for Reagan twice to literally what everyone knows California to be now. Like, that's how fast that it all moved. And a lot of it has to do with, the transplants. We literally get all like the worst people from like every other state who like moves here because they saw the commercial with Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about, come to California, it's a great place to live, and that everyone's there, and now it's all super overpopulated and everyone's in Pacific Beach being just a complete douchebag. It sucks there now. And last time I was there was like 3 years ago, and all of the spots that I used to frequent are pretty much closed now because of COVID. I don't know if they've even came back. I mean, I highly doubt they came back, so they probably just got bought out by somebody else. But it's like, no, like I saw this coming in 2016 where I'm walking around downtown where I worked, and it's nothing but homeless people. But as you go there like day after day after day, you start noticing, there's a lot more homeless homeless people here now than there was 3 months ago. And every time I walk around the city, that smell of urine gets stronger and stronger. And then I'm looking around trying to walk over shit that's on the streets. And I don't know if that's dog shit or human shit, but I know that it's there. And you start looking around, it's like, okay, I can see things are progressively getting worse. They're not getting better. And that's why I literally left California 3 months before COVID hit. And I can only imagine what would have happened if I'd stayed there as COVID hit, being in California with all those regulations. It probably would have sucked. Orange Hat, I'll start over to you. What is your thoughts on people fleeing California but not understanding why they're fleeing in the first place?
It's basically sheep mentality. Unfortunately, humanity has taken Jesus fucking Christ.
Hey, you want to turn off your phone there?
Yeah, I just did. It's like they've taken a step back. They prefer to listen to everybody else without doing their own fucking research and shit. I mean, yes, get the fuck out of California. It's nothing but Chinese, or it's Chinese communist California now. It's not U.S. California. But
I mean, it's mostly Mexican, but that's
no, it's Chinese California because they got a fucking Chinese citizen in their fucking election shit. They have foreign operatives in their freaking election stuff. So yeah, they're California belongs to China. But other than that, the fact that this actress Jillian Michaels or Fitness whatever, yeah, she's right. Y'all freaking get what you voted for. The problem is people don't. They all listen to the superficial shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if they are that stupid, the problem is you have to give them what they want to realize that for them to realize that's not what they wanted. And the problem is everybody else has to suffer because of it, so that they can learn their fucking lesson. Unfortunately, there are people who haven't learned their lessons. They're like, well, I live in a part of California that there's not all this rampant crime. And it's like, good for fucking you.
Mm-hmm.
I won't even go to California to visit my fucking family over there. They'll have to fucking come and visit me. Not that they fucking would, but the thing is, it's like, I'm sorry. If I could do something to get my freaking friends and family out of California, I would, because they all know the differences. They all know that, or they all see the shit going on. And luckily, most of them are far away from it. But the problem is the whole state government is the problem.
I feel like before you're allowed to leave the state of California, you have to fill out a questionnaire. And if you fail the questionnaire, you can't leave. Until you score at least 70%, you're not allowed to leave.
I mean, it's cruel and unusual, and I like it, but it's unconstitutional.
Unfortunately, that's where we are here. Like I said, there's so many people, and then, like I said, over the last 5-10 years, I've noticed this. There's a lot of people who have moved to Nevada, and it's like, oh, well, California's too expensive, so I'm going to move to Nevada now. Now everyone in Nevada is complaining about everything's too expensive over there because all the Californians have moved in. Same complaints I've heard about Arizona. Same complaints I've heard about Colorado. Colorado's like ridiculously expensive now because everyone moved there because like, oh, free weed, and weed's legal now. Now it's unbearable there as well. Texas is having the same complaints. Georgia's been having a lot of complaints. Obviously, Florida, because everyone's been moving to Florida over the last 6 years. So I'm pretty sure that's bad as well. And then this is just the problem that it's like, it's not only that California is getting worse, but it's that people are fleeing California and they're making the states that they're leaving also worse in an aspect too. It's like, guess what? There's not going to be too many states for you guys to flee to if you guys just ruin like the entire bottom half of the United States of America. Like, and eventually, like your only options is going to be like North Dakota and wherever the hell New Hampshire is or something like that. And that's going to be your only two options. And guess what? The space is limited there. So at some point, someone's going to have the, hey, are we the baddies moment before anything like gets better? Because if you just move on, then you're just basically like a parasite at that point, and we're just spreading this cancer all around the nation. So any final thoughts on this one before we jump over to a similar topic?
Yeah, not to sound like a nerd, but Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's just like the denial of California. Like even San Fran, it's like, oh, your rent's like $3,000, $4,000, and they're like, oh, that's not too bad. That's like most people's salary elsewhere for a whole
Yeah,
year.
exactly. Oh, my rent's only $4,000 a month. That's reasonable. It's like, dude, I don't even make $4,000 a month before taxes. It's like,
Exactly. It's just like that's the denial of California. Like if my rent was $4,000, I would not be wherever it was I was paying that much.
Real quick before I let Rob finish his point, there was a place in La Jolla. It had been about 10 years ago, and it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. It wasn't even like a nice apartment. You can tell this place was like built in like 1950 something, right? $4,000 a month, and then because it was $4,000 a month, because it was literally 2 blocks away from La Jolla Cove, it's a dump of an apartment that's $4,000 a month due to the location, and that was 10 years ago. I can only imagine how much that is now. But I'll let Rob finish there.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna have a nerd moment and be like, in like the Matrix, Agent Smith calls like humanity like a parasite, and it's like, look, there are people that act right and like just want to be left alone and like buy a house, have some property, and just have a family, live their life. And then there are other people who take up space, are a complete drain on society, clog up the criminal justice system. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on. It's Jillian Michaels apparently. So, but yeah, it's just like it's always going to be like that, unfortunately. So, those of us that are reasonable and disciplined and pay our taxes and do the right thing have to constantly, point out who the bad actors are.
Yeah, and Rick's joining us here. He'll explain it in a minute. And it's like, look, Spencer, I get it too. Like, I know it's La Jolla and it's going to be expensive, but it's still the principle of the whole thing. It's like the example is like that was $4,000. So I'm assuming now, geez, that was $4,000 10 years ago. It's got to be at least 6 now, because hell, even like North Park, which is the neighborhood that I actually grew up in, the place that I'm paying now, I would have to pay at least 3 times that for smaller space in North Park, because that's how gentrified and North Park has become like over the last few years. So it's like it's just bad like all around the world. Like even if I wanted to go back today, I could not possibly go back under the current circumstances, which is why I left in the first place. So I think I made the right decision there. But speaking of making the right decision, let's all talk about Rick's favorite person in the entire world, Joe Biden, because Joe Biden just had a rally in Hollywood. Well, we're doing this whole thing again.
Kindest, most decent photos we've ever had.
Yeah, sometimes he almost forgets that he's there, right? And then, so Biden did another Hollywood fundraiser where all of these paid puppet celebrities go around and tell you about what an amazing guy Joe Biden was. So I'll pop this up here just for a second. So Jack Black was one of many people in attendance for this fundraiser. I think it was George Clooney was there, Julia Roberts was there. Who else was attendant of this one? I know there was a few names that they gave here. Jack Black of the what was it? Is it the Black Keys? Is that the name of their band?
Tenacious D.
No, Jack. No. Who am I thinking of?
Oh, you're thinking of Jack White.
Jack White.
Jack White. Yeah. I was like,
opposite.
The White
yeah. The White Stripe. There we go. I knew it was something along those lines. So yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah, Jack Black, Sarah Lee Roth, and a few other comedians. They're all there. Apparently, Mindy Kaling, Jeff Ross, Jordan Peele were other people who were ticket holders. Kimmel was also there too. Catherine Hahn, Jason Bateman. They were all there to raise $30 million for the Biden campaign, because Biden needs the money. And then this is one of the I guess highlights of this whole thing, which is Jack Black telling everyone how much they need to support Joe Biden, because Trump is it's Trump.
A few days ago, my manager called me and said George Clooney and Julia Roberts wanted me to help out the president and speak here tonight, and I said I am in. When and where? And thank you. And then they said, Jack, we know how busy you are. You don't have time. Look at all the other events that are happening tonight that you already turned down. MC at the Fliegelman Bat Mitzvah. The opening of the new Jack in the Box in Oxnard.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause here, and I just want to have just a sidebar conversation here real quick. Am I the only person who's just never actually found Jack Black funny? And I know that sounds weird because I get it. There's a lot of Tenacious D fans out there. Maybe some of you guys love Tropic Thunder, but as a comedian, I have never found Jack Black funny like at all. Like I think there was that one year, if you guys remember, I think it was like '06 where he hosted the VMAs, and I was like, why? What would we be doing here? Who thought that was a good idea to have this guy? He's not funny. Like he's just not. So am I alone here? Is that a rare opinion to have about Jack Black?
I've never seen Nacho Libre or School of Rock, which are the things that apparently have built up his career. So I'm not in a position to say whether he's funny. I did see Super Mario Brothers, and the idea that Peaches would have been nominated for Best Original Song is still an incredibly stupid one. So I can't say that he's funny. I can't say that he's funny, but I've never seen him actually do. I don't think I've seen him in much of anything. I can't think of anything that I've seen.
Yeah, he's very much of my and Jacob's generation. Like he was the most active when, like I was like from when I was 10 to when I was like 18. But like Tenacious D, I listened to on the school bus ride to school along with Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park to give you like the sort of like, you know what I mean? Sort of like attention span I had at the time or whatever. But it's like Jack Black was like good in High Fidelity with John Cusack. And he shows up in a few movies where he's okay. You know what I mean? Like he was in Orange County with Colin Hanks back in the day. He was in Shallow Hal. These are not movies I think are particularly good, or that he was great in, but he's like, he's the fat guy willing to take off his shirt. And he actually is a pretty talented musician. I even if you don't like Tenacious D, he's actually pretty good at, at making music or whatever. So he's talented. He has not been relevant in a very long time. I'm not sure why they would push him out here. Like again, he's been in a few movies through the years. I will say this: Mexican friends of mine thought Nacho Libre was hysterical. I didn't get much of it because it was very inside baseball, if you know what I mean, in terms of like Mexican culture and lucha libre, and I was a wrestling fan, but yeah, it just wasn't. I didn't find it.
You wouldn't have found it funny, Rob, because you're only a quarter Mexican, and you need to ask me.
Is that what it is? Is it the Corona that the Mexicans drink that makes Jack Black funny? Is that what's happening here?
Maybe, but I think we're all supposed to also be impressed by the fact that his mother was some sort of genius that worked with NASA. So that is, I guess, what makes him qualified to tell us whom we should vote for.
He's also from a piece of shit town in Washington State.
Tell me who I should vote for.
Yes. All of the Hollywood people are.
Well, let's finish with Jack Black's P here. Then maybe you guys will want to vote for Biden after this. So let's listen to this great comedian, quote unquote.
Judge at the 2nd Annual Imperial Valley Avocado Festival. You don't see that on Meryl Streep's resume. I said, I know I turned them down, but my president needs me. Thank you. And then they hit me with the big one. They said, Jack, you can't go. You have nothing to wear. Your good suit is in the cleaners. Well, were they wrong? Because I had this to wear. My kick-ass American flag overalls. Most patriotic outfit of all times. That shut him up. There wasn't much they could say after that. And when the president wins in November, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a sweet shout out in his victory speech for what I gave up to be here. Because when democracy is at stake, Jack Black answers the call. Mr. President, you're welcome. That's not the president. That's not Judge. It's a random dude. But I thought it would look better if I talked right to a guy.
Hilarious. So yeah, this is what happened a couple of days ago. All the millionaires got together to, I guess, promote their Dark Brandon meme and tell you to vote for Biden. So yeah, Clooney and Julia Roberts. If you guys still, if those names still have any weight in your realm whatsoever, they're the ones telling you that you need to vote Biden in November and not Trump, or else they're gonna leave the country and call you racist, or they'll threaten to leave and then they don't actually leave. They'll just stand around and then they'll call you racist. That's usually how it works. So Rick, I'll start this one off with you. What's your take on Nacho Libre telling you to vote for Biden?
I've never understood why anyone should take their political advice from any entertainer. This is nonpartisan with me, whether it's Jack Black and George Clooney and all these other people telling me that I should vote for dear Uncle Joe, the kindest, wisest, most decent president we've ever had, or someone like John Voight telling me that I should, vote for Trump. I don't see why we should listen to any of these people. What are their qualifications? I'm perfectly capable of deciding for myself whom I will vote for. And right now, I think I'll probably vote for the audio animatronic figure of Joe Biden that's in the Hall of Presidents in the Magic Kingdom, because that's actually more lifelike than dear Uncle Joe. So I'm puzzled as to why they think they have this much sway. They haven't. I don't think anyone has ever said to me, "Oh, well, I thought about voting for Trump, but then Jack Black made a comedy thing, and now I'm definitely riding with Biden." I don't understand that kind of thinking. Who again? Oh, I always ask the same question: who's the target audience? Who is the target audience for this?
Americans. That's the target audience.
The target audience, Americans. As we continue struggling with our with our gas, paying our mortgages, that seeing
as more and more people are doing TikTok videos crying about how they can't afford to live anymore.
Yes, we're supposed to suddenly decide, oh yes, this is great, 4 more years. I know. Okay, one fairness. We're all in the midst of the Biden boom. I know that Rob in particular has been benefiting financially off of dear Uncle Joe, and he, he is the most decent man who has ever lived, with the possible exception of Christ. They're up there. Joseph,
okay,
Robin,
he gets struck down right now. We're not, and it's not gonna, we're not gonna mind. It's
if there's a lightning strike that happens in the background right now, just
we're at 100 and something temperature. Okay.
Mm.
The economy is so bad, I can't even afford a Trump burger at Trump Burgers. So I would just I don't know whom they're trying to persuade. This is really preaching to the choir. All the people here, all the people who attended this they're all going to vote for Biden. They're all going to vote for Democrats. Fine, that's their choice. California is going to give all its electoral votes to Joe Biden. That's fine. Although, in fairness, Joe Biden will get 537 electoral votes in November. It's guaranteed. And Cider will cast that random main vote for like Bernie Sanders. Again, this is a fundraising thing. To make money, they have every right to speak out if they wish. But whom are they persuading? Whom are they genuinely persuading? It's one thing for Jack Black and all these people to attend the rally. Have them go down to a part of Texas, not El Paso. El Paso is going to vote for Biden, but have them go down to any part of Texas or Kansas, South Carolina, even Georgia, and talk to the people who support Trump. Try to convince them to say why they should vote for Joe Biden. What is his case, other than he's not Trump, other than he's like 3,000 years old? And if he should die in office, and God forbid, I don't want that to happen, but if he should die, we'll get President Kamala Harris, who will, I'm sure, improve things. Domestic.
Even they don't want Kamala Harris. That's why they're trying so hard to keep him alive and do like the whole weekend of Bernie's routine with him, because it's like, God forbid we actually have to utter the words President Harris.
We will, because she will be the inevitable president. Whether Uncle Joe passes on, or in 2028, when she runs and wins by a landslide, and then she'll be followed by His Holiness Pete Buttigieg, and then he'll be followed by AOC. So you see, we're always going to get that. Always going to get the succession of Democrats.
I mean, Hollywood always I was just gonna say real quick, Hollywood always does these fundraisers for presidential candidates, but I do not think there has been a candidate an incumbent that's been this weak in a presidential election since, I don't know, Jimmy Carter, 1976 or excuse me, 1980 when Ronald Reagan won. You know what I mean? It's just like this candidate is an absolute disaster.
No, he's not. He's not. He's the most decent, kindest, best president we've ever had.
Would you please shut the hell up?
John, what is your take on Jack Black making you want to vote for Joe Biden? Is it working?
I mean, no, because he more or less just has to be there because if not, the movie things and everything else would dry up. It's just a political move at that point.
So
I know that thing went viral, like not too long ago. Like even at that thing where like Biden had to be escorted by Obama off stage or whatever.
Oh yeah,
because apparently he froze up again.
Yep.
So I don't think he has much time left.
Yep.
But you don't know that in private, he's able to quote Immanuel Kant in German, and he can bench press 350 pounds. All these people who work for him have told us that in private, he's sharp and he's lucid and he's able to have deep conversations. And
he's amazing. We can't prove it, but he's doing great.
Yeah.
Orange, what's your take on this nonsense from celebrities of Hollywood?
Again, why would I listen to Satanists who are spewing shit out of their mouths and trying to dye their beards back to black because they're getting a little gray and up there and senile in their old age, just like Joe Biden, mind you. Jack Black, last time I saw him, he was wearing a Baphomet shirt. So yeah, he can go fuck himself. I really don't give two shits about his opinion. The only thing I care about Jack Black is, can the fucking idiot act, or can he frickin' just shut the fuck up otherwise? Because otherwise, I can't say anything else that I would like to say because, well, yeah.
Because you end up in the CIA black site if you keep going in this direction.
You'll end up in one of those concentration camps that Rachel Maddow and the host of The View will be thrown into.
You'll be in a brick room somewhere in like Lithuania. This is some like shady like green zone place. But yeah, good luck with that. Remember this whole thing? Remember this thing a few years? They tried this like, what was it, 8 years ago? Around the same time when they brought all the Avengers out to tell you about what a horrible person Trump was and how y'all had to vote for Hillary. So here's a little bit just in case you guys forgot how this ended 8 years prior.
On Tuesday, November 8th, this country will make one of the most important
decisions in its history.
You have a chance
You have an obligation.
to be a part of that decision.
You might think it's not important. You might think you're not important.
But that's not true. And the only way we can prove that to you is by having lots of famous people.
Lots of famous people.
Lots and lots of famous people.
Just a shit ton of famous people. Repeating how important.
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 How important it is.
Register.
Vote.
There's so many famous people. Some of us aren't as famous, but still pretty famous.
Like, you've seen us somewhere.
Sometimes a not famous person will be mixed in with the famous ones.
They drive the message home
because of their unpolished sincerity.
Their unpolished sincerity.
Oh my God, he's about to cry.
No, I think he realizes that this is parody. This is I've seen this, but this plays like parody, like that other video where they were asking people they were asking the college electors the racism. Yes, the racism thing. Yes, that Christian.
No, this is not parody. This is 100% a real ad that they put out there in 2016 in hopes that people would not vote for Donald Trump, thinking that, hey, a bunch of famous people, you're all going to go see those Avengers movies, right? Well, all the Avengers are telling you don't vote for Trump. So are you going to listen? And apparently that didn't work.
No,
But you only get this.
Many
No, I was
famous
gonna
people
say that-
together if the issues
One that truly matters to all of us.
A disease or
ecological crisis or
a racist, abusive coward who could permanently damage the fabric of our society.
Do the math. Do we really want to give nuclear weapons to a man whose signature move is firing?
Firing things?
But we can end this nightmare before it begins.
Yeah, good luck. That didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. So,
But again, look, you had Mama Hillary. She ran for 16 years to be president, and she still lost to a moron. It's not that people voted for Trump; they didn't want to vote for Mama Hillary.
But you have to appreciate that narrative. Like, no matter where you come from, okay? Yeah, even if you're a pro-Hillary person, which I don't know why you would be, you'd have to like have zero self-awareness. But anyway, even if you're a pro-Hillary person, it's just
or you just don't want to die.
It is Shakespearean. No. It's Shakespearean. It's like the heights at which this woman got to in this country, and she's upended by what? The difference between the actual vote number. It's like she got the popular vote. It's so she must be stewing in hatred for like the American public, to the likes that we have never seen before. She probably hates the public so fucking much, and yet was on TV getting a Tony Award. So it's like, which is it, Hillary? You fucking snide bitch.
Well, she gets a Tony Award from people who would vote for her and who see her as the embodiment of a successful woman. But what success can she point to that is not connected to her marriage? I mean, people did not vote. I mean, people were not rallying to her as Hillary Rodham. It was because she was married and was a former first lady. And that was always the plan. 8 years of Bill, 8 years of Hill. She couldn't run in 2000 because she would be, she'd be like Evita Peron. So she had to wait 8 years.
Nobody knows who that is.
Oh, Eva Peron, watch the movie. Okay, it's a musical with Madonna.
I only have a vague idea of who she is because of the movie, but yeah.
Point being, she ran for 16 years. She ran for Senate in New York as a stepping stone to run for president in 2008. And any person who thought that she ran because she wanted to represent New York, you're stupid. You're just flat out stupid. I'm sorry. There's no believability in that. So she lost to Barack Obama. She wasn't expecting it because she thought she was going to win easily. Then in 2016, she ran, but didn't expect Bernie Sanders to be so popular because she's very unpopular. Not a lot of people like her. I don't know really who would. And when she lost, she had been running for 16 years. This is what always gets me. She had been running for 16 years and she lost to a moron. She lost to someone who was basically incoherent and just said the most bizarre, idiotic things.
You'll be in jail. Remember that?
Yeah, okay, that was a good line. That was a good line. I have to give him that. That was a good line. So it's not that Trump won, it's Hillary lost. 2020, it's not that Biden won, it's that Trump lost. There's always a difference. And now we're getting these people. Why are any of these? Neither of these people are qualified, in my view. But back to the original point here about Hollywood, they've been trying, probably since the 60s, they've been trying to convince us that they know better. They do not. A lot of these stars, this is one of those cases where I would say, stay in your lane. You're wonderful. You're very talented. People like Robert De Niro, they're very talented. Meryl Streep, she's one of the greats. But when she goes on about how, if it wasn't for her and Amy Adams and Dev Patel, we'd be stuck watching nothing but football and mixed martial arts. Believe me, there'd be people who would imagine that's paradise. I would sooner watch mixed martial arts than watch She-Devil. Just throwing that out there. All right. So again, I think sometimes these people are actually hurting their cause because they come across as entitled, elite, separate from the struggles of people who are really finding it difficult to pay their bills, to care for their kids. And we're supposed to keep a very old man in power for 4 more years. Not that I like the other old man, but we're going to keep this one who really is like that figure in the Hall of Presidents. He reminds me so much of a robot that just kind of malfunctions. Why are we keeping him? Why? Either party,
because there's a global satanic plan that's happening right now that you're a part of, and in order for it to reach its fulfillity, Biden has to be in office because they need a puppet to run the United States of America. It's the same way that we did when we started installing CIA directors to be these presidents of certain nations so that we can control them. Same thing's happening here.
I thought you meant George H.W. Bush because he was the.
I mean, he was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Do you know the face that Biden makes when you can tell he's not there, but he has a smile on his face and he's waving, and it's like that. It's moments like that where I'm just like, okay, like, listen, if there's a God,
it's like those moments. It's like those moments where it's like he's having a conversation with like someone across the hall and he's smiling, but there's no one actually there.
Listen, I'm sure that people get up to terrible things, and if there is a God, whoever like was making Joe Biden do this deserves to go to hell. Like, there's gotta, I mean, I'm sure there's awful things that we don't even know about, but it's like you're literally like pushing this guy out of his wheelchair to somehow fill the role of president of the United States. That is where we're at. This guy is completely gone, and then they shoot him up with meth or whatever every time he has a State of the Union or debate, so he doesn't seem so lost and whatever. But he's gone. He's absolutely gone.
We should point out that Joe Biden claimed to have talked to Francois Mitterrand and Helmut Kohl, the former president of France and the former chancellor of Germany, about January 6th, which was the worst moment in American history, the most traumatic thing that ever happened in this country. And people have pointed out Mitterrand and Kohl have been dead for almost 20 years, if not more. But they're saying that he talked to them about these conversations about January 6th. And if you point it out, the people that I pointed this out to have said, oh, well, Trump says that he should have injected bleach. Or Trump is going to become a dictator. I mean, they don't really have an answer to that. They keep saying, "Oh no, Biden's perfectly lucid. He's rational. He's coherent. The man talks to dead people. The man awkwardly moves during the Juneteenth celebration." Americans and most people around the world would say that this man should not have run for re-election. Maybe in 2020, and that was only because they were worried that Bernie Sanders, this openly socialist man, might actually win, and they couldn't stomach the idea, so they had to get the moderate, the sensible man. But he's pretty much, I think he's a senile moron. I'm sorry, I think the same with Trump. For the record, I think they're both senile morons.
Yes, we have to make sure that you let everyone know that you are a never Trumper.
I'm not. No,
I like to call a fence-sitting pussy.
No. Just because you have a big picture of the Donald, that's your own business. But and by the way, stop voting against your interest, Jacob. I would just say that I was in the Never Trump movement until it devolved into always Biden. I'm not going to be a Biden apologist. I think he's not a good president. I think
so wait a minute. Are you saying that you are part of a movement and then the movement went a little too far and that's when you had to leave them? Did you watch the first segment of our show, by the way?
I'm driving. I'm driving. I can't be watching you as I'm driving.
Well, all I'm saying is you may be a perfect representation of what we were talking about in the first person of the show. But we do have to move on to another topic here. And we're going to stay in the line of Hollywood here because this is a topic that I was thinking about doing for the Bible Lens. I probably am going to do it, just not right away. It'll probably be like a few weeks away. But I've noticed here, and I'm not sure how many other people have noticed, that there's been a very weird relationship between Hollywood and the Roman Catholic Church that a lot of people have not either intentionally have not connected dots to or have just been completely blind to it. And this is something that I noticed this weekend because apparently there was some kind of event that happened at the Vatican where a bunch of comedians from all over the world were sent out to essentially mingle with the Pope. And as a part of the American delegation, I guess you could say, comedians such as Whoopi Goldberg, Jim Gaffigan, Conan O'Brien, Chris Rock, and other comedians were all flying out to the Vatican City to hang out and mingle with Pope Francis in the quote-unquote holy city. And I'm sitting over here thinking to myself, no, this is very weird because we talk about how wicked and debaucherous and just straight up evil Hollywood can be at times, if not most of the time, if not all the time. Yet they just have this very, very odd relationship with the the Roman Catholic Church, where it's like they're always romanticizing the Roman Catholicism. Whatever you notice, like Christianity is being like predicted in movies, is always Roman Catholicism. It's never any other type of Christianity that is shown there. And then, like I said, you have all these people out there that mingle with the Pope. So this was the article here from the Hollywood Reporter. This is a few days ago, but this happened on Friday. All these people were invited to the Vatican. Hundreds of comedians. Pope Francis on Friday hosted comedians from around the world for importance of humor to society. The attendees included Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, which should be just two red flags right off the bat with this whole situation. But Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, Whoopi Goldberg, Chris Rock, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Jim Gaffigan, Tig Notino, Mike Birbiglia, and others were all joined here with the Pope. I'll show you guys the video in a second. I think the Pope said, "You manage to make people smile even when you're dealing with problems and events large and small." He said, "You denounce the abuses of power, and you have got." First of all, stop right there. You denounce you're talking. You understand? You're talking to Hollywood celebrities, right? Like, what other better example of abuse of power is there than Hollywood? Like, once again, I feel like I'm going crazy here that people are not like putting like these things together here. But let's just finish here. So you denounce the abuse of power. You give voice to forgotten situations. You point out inappropriate behavior. That's comedy. Remember this: when you manage to bring intelligent smiles to the lips of even a single spectator, you also make God smile. So what he's saying there is that by comedy, you're making Christ smile, because that's in the Bible somewhere. He also says that I think it was Brian says that there's a lot of other American comedians, my friends, over the years. We're all looking at each other thinking something's wrong. We're in this beautiful place in the Vatican, and some reason they've let comedians in, which is always a mistake. He said, "I thought the comments were beautiful." Louis Dreyfus said that, "I was delighted to be here." Other, like I said, comedians were all lambasting at the Pope here. I didn't think that it was the right place to bring it up, but I'll probably send an email talking about Sister Act 3. By the way, is the Sister Act franchise still relevant in any way, shape, or form? Like, I don't know. Pope Francis did ask one more question to the assembled comics. He said that it is okay to, so while it's okay to laugh at God, we just play let me rephrase this again, because I just like read this like, wait, what? He says that while it is okay to laugh at God, just as we play and joke with those that we love, he also said that it's not okay if it's done to offend religious believers. Well, once again, you're talking about Hollywood here, who quite literally all they do is offend religious believers there, and a multitude of issues. But here's the big video here where they're all in the room, and obviously there's the Pope being front and center. And then this is the second video here, which comes from one of the news sites here. And this is all the comedians bowing and shaking hands with the Pope.
Mi diceva il prefetto che in Italia si dice che il sorriso fa buon sangue. Si dice così. Io dissi, ma invece del discorso farò così e ridiamo tutti. Si può ridere anche di Dio, certo. E non è bestemmia questo. Si può dire. Come si gioca e si scherza con le persone che amiamo. La tradizione sapienziale.
I mean, you ask a very good question there. We'll talk about that here in just a second.
Si può fare, ma senza offendere i sentimenti religiosi dei credenti, soprattutto dei poveri. E vi chiedo, per favore, di pregare per me, a favore, con il sorriso, non contro.
So let's kind of address the elephant in the room here, because as Orange even alluded to it right here, it's like, if the Pope is really the vicar of Christ, the representation of Jesus Christ here in America, how can he be mingling with a group of people who are, let's be very, very clear here, are not in any way, shape, or form remotely Christian? A lot of them have spent their entire careers opposing everything that Christ has ever stood for in their lives, and they're in the industry that quite literally attacks the Christian faith at every waking moment. How can essentially he open their doors to these people and all sit there as if we're all somehow on the same team? And then here's what I would allude to here. There's this thought process on the internet, especially when you look at kind of like the Nick Fuenteses of the world and a few other people. I know Nick is just like an example of this. He's just one, but it's not the big one. But there's this understanding that people think that when it comes to like Catholicism, that, you know, it's super based, it's super red pilled, and it's all right wing. It's like, that's not in reality like whatsoever. Like, especially here in the United States of America, like I said, I'm only talking about the US. I can't talk about the demographics of other nations, obviously Italy and Spain, where Roman Catholicism is awful even bigger than here is in the United States. But here in the United States, if you look at the demographics, the overwhelming majority of Roman Catholics in the US are in fact Democrat. Like, a lot of people don't really either notice that or make that correlation, that a lot of Catholics here in the United States are in fact left wing. So on one hand, it makes sense that you have, you know, all of these left wing comedians going out there and honoring the Pope. What I'm saying is that, is anyone going to make the correlation here of like, why is it that we can all point to Hollywood as being, you know, this evil, perverse, blasphemous place that always attacks God, yet they always seem to have this close relationship with the Roman Catholic Church? No one really goes far enough to think to ourselves like, well, if we understand that this is exactly what Hollywood is, then what does that say about the Roman Catholic Church that they seem to be alluding so closely together here? I was gonna shoot this over the orange hat because he is the Catholic here, but he just stepped out here for a minute, so I'm gonna shoot this one off to you, Rob, while we wait on him to get back. What is your take on Hollywood's relationship with the Roman Catholic Church? Do you not see any kind of issues here? I mean, how many movies have Hollywood produced over several years that has all been about attacking and taking down the Roman Catholic Church in their attempt to take down what they view to be Christianity, and yet here they are open arms with it? It doesn't make any sense to me, right?
Yeah, I mean, my extended family, you know, my aunts, uncles, are quite Catholic, but they're very much to the, you know, to the right. And I mean, military service, etc. Like, it's something they take very seriously. So I personally don't have that experience, but I also don't know that many Catholic people, you know, so I can't really say demographically how they vote one way or the other. But yeah, like, I think he was specifically talking about comedians. He's talking about people who try to bring joy to people's lives, even if it's through poking fun at traditional things like religion, like God. It sort of falls on deaf ears, though, kind of going past that. If you're talking about Hollywood, if you're talking about, you know, the Catholic Church, I think it's funny. I mean, Hollywood, there's a lot of Jews, you know, there's a lot of Jewish people. And so I think it's funny that there's this strong connection with the Roman Catholic Church. So it's like, what's the connection there? You know what I mean? Make Christians look bad through theatrical and over the top presentations. And you know, look, the Catholic Church has blood on its hands going all the way back to its inception. Everybody knows that. I also think that great art, great architecture, you know, the Renaissance, all of this came out of the Catholic Church. So it's not let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think a lot of good has come from it, but it's been a corrupt institution for a long time. I still think it's probably a pretty corrupt institution. And so I don't think you're wrong seeing that there's a negative correlate, or, you know, a negative connection between Christianity kind of being presented as, or rather Roman Catholicism being presented as Christianity.
Yeah, no, here's an interesting point too. There was a Met Gala event about 4 or 5 years ago, and if you remember this was when, like, the theme of it was basically like Roman Catholicism. So that's when you had a bunch of celebrities who may or may not worship Satan, who were all like basically in, I think, garb that will be outright called blasphemous. This is like Rihanna, Madonna. They were all dressed as like Catholic popes and nuns and priests and all this stuff. And you can tell from the context here, like, this is very, very ungodly. What people didn't know about that event, even though there were so many people complaining about that a few years ago, is that the Roman Catholic Church actually supplied a lot of the costumes and the idols that were used during that Met Gala. And even then I was like, why are you guys supplying these group of, let's just be very, very clear here, not Christians, an event, supplying them costumes and idols and crosses and all this stuff that they're going to use to essentially mock God? Why would you do something like that? And to me, ever since then, and you can go back a little bit further, obviously there's other deeper things we can talk about here, but it's like, I've never trusted that. That's never sat right with me. And like I said, I know a lot of people get upset whenever I talk about the Catholic Church, but I'm saying that, look, there's something wrong here, and I think everyone should see it. But like I said, Orange, we're waiting for you to come back, because I did want to get your perspective. You are the Catholic here on, so what's kind of your take on not only seeing the comedians fly out to the Vatican to be with the Pope, but just kind of your stake on Hollywood and Catholicism in general?
Well, I may not be a perfect Catholic, but when it comes to Hollywood and religion in general, I only respect those who are actually open about it and unabashedly open about it. Yes, my religion has skeletons in its closet, but what religion doesn't? I would like to have that question answered by people who love to point out the skeletons. The thing is, when it comes to Hollywood and religion, and these people who have supported the most ungodly and anti-religious aspects of life, going to the Pope and the Pope receiving them, it just reaffirms that this man who was elected to be the vicar of Christ is not truly standing in line with what God has preached. Most of these people are all for women butchering their babies in the womb and killing them. And you're telling me that this man is going, or that this man who is supposed to be the leader of the Catholic faith is going to let these people even inside the Vatican? I'm sorry, but if I was the Pope, I would have looked at all of these people and I would have said, unless you are here to repent, get out of my church. You are not welcome here. I honestly, and that is all I really have to say, because these people have lived in sin most of their entire lives. I mean, I am not a perfect person. I myself have sinned. But I do not think that these people, or even the Pope right now, currently, I kind of agree with the sedevacantists, the ones who are basically, it's an empty chair right now. I'm sorry, I just do not think that this Pope has served the Catholic religion in much in any progressive way that is not the progressivism that a lot of people talk about, but keeping the religion going forward. There is a significant decrease in people who go to church nowadays. And the Catholic Church is supposed to be paying attention to that and actually coming up with ways to combat it. There's been a significant loss of faith.
Yeah, so I want to get Rick and John's thoughts here for a follow up on that. John, I want to start with you. What's kind of your thoughts on this whole situation from your perspective?
I mean, I think it just kind of seems like a publicity stunt, but I don't understand what was the whole purpose of it, especially since they mostly just called out Hollywood comedians. I can see if they had some from like different parts of the world, that would make a little bit more sense. But maybe Hollywood's just trying to get in the good graces of the church for some reason.
Yeah, like I said, they have a very close relationship, which I find, like I said, just very odd. But Rick, I know you are a man of the Pope. So well, you going to go ahead and defend your boy here, since you love to use him in all our gifts and our group chats there?
In what way do what do I come across as the Pope guy?
Because you always make a reference to the Pope every time somebody makes any kind of reference to anything Christian. So I just figured that he was your boy.
Well, I don't
you
know
go back in the day.
I know I use the Ten Commandments GIF on many of you because you deserve it, but I don't remember using the Pope all that much. Oh well, there are some, but they're for humor,
Sure.
which is what the Pope is about. And just for the record, I attend a Baptist church, so I'm not a Catholic.
Take the ball and run with it, okay?
I'll say this much: we've come a long way when the Catholic Church had that what they called the Legion of Decency, where they rated movies and told their congregation whether to attend a particular movie or not. And they had such power that they actually altered scripts and plots and whole movies just on whether they were get a C rating, C for condemned. And we also forget that Pope John Paul II was himself an actor who performed actually in the Polish underground during World War II. I don't know why the Pope decided to present all these comedians, most of whom disagree with him on many issues. Some they agree. They probably agree on the income inequality and climate change, two things that the Pope has been very open about. But he has stood firm against female ordination. He has stood firm against abortion. So I'm surprised. And there aren't that many Catholics that joined in this congregation. Stephen Colbert and maybe Conan O'Brien are the only ones whom I would say are Catholic. I don't think Whoopi Goldberg is.
Jim Gaffigan is.
Jim Gaffigan.
Yes. And I will say this: Jim
But
Gaffigan's been married to the same woman, and he has like 5 kids with her. So, I mean, maybe he's the exception out of that group.
Well, no, because he also had a particularly nasty streak. When was it on one of the?
Oh,
CBS
yeah,
Sunday
no,
mornings.
like a anti-Trump. I mean, he's gone off the rails since Trump got elected.
But
I went to
I'm
see him
surprised-
live. You know, I was a fan of his, and then I'm just like, okay,
I'm
good.
surprised though that Tig, whatever her name is,
Notaro.
whatever, like she went to this
Exactly.
as well. I wouldn't think that she would attend. Why are all these people attending? What do they get? And one last point: I'm not impressed with this appearance of all these comedians with the Pope, but for whatever his faults, and I know Jacob, you believe he has many, he is still the head of a head of a state, a sovereign state, and I would imagine a little more decorum and dignity should be afforded to the head of state, not just standing around grinning and making faces. That's just to me undignified. I would respectfully shake his hand and greet him as Pope Francis. Maybe claim Your Holiness, even though I'm not Catholic. I would do the same for the Dalai Lama. But just have a little dignity. Even if you're a comedian, you know your place. We've come a long way from when the Hays Code would insist on not paying any person of the cloth in a bad light. So we've gone from Boys Town down to immaculate. So I think that's a pretty interesting swing in almost 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is something that I definitely want to touch up on the Bible Lens podcast, where I can go into kind of greater detail. But here it is, just with me, and I know this is difficult for like a lot of people, but I just see that there's something sinister. We can all see there's something sinister going on as Hollywood. Even though as much as we into movies and stuff like that, like we can see with our own 2 eyes that something's clearly not right here. And I feel the exact same way about the Roman Catholic Church as a system. As much as the world views it as the authority of kind of the Christian faith, like all around the world, we look at it from the perspective only that we see here in the United States of America. We don't understand that the reach that Roman Catholicism has in places like Europe, in places like South America, and in some places in Africa as well too. But like I said, the history in those regions, it's far bloodier than it is here in the United States. And Orange had mentioned it earlier. It's like, well, what religion doesn't have a nasty past? It's like, well, all of them do, and that's kind of the problem. That's where I always pull back on. It's like, when you look at kind of the idea of just kind of religion in general, there's always going to be some kind of black eye and eye of religion, because in reality, it's not religion that we should be preaching here. It's faith that we should be preaching here. And I think the reason why we're in the system that we're all right now is because we've perverted the gospel so far away from what it actually is, which is just all about Christ and the death, burial, resurrection of Christ. And we've added so many things to it that as a result, we've created all of these religions, all of these denominations that don't actually truly represent Christ in any way, shape, or form. And you see that these representations are more of the world than there actually are of Christ in and of itself. And this is why I have a major problem, and this is why I speak out against it a lot. So all I'm saying here is that if we know that one side is wicked and evil and can't be trusted, and they're aligning themselves constantly with another side who the world is telling us we should trust, maybe we should think twice about who we trust there. Like I said, there's a much more deeper context here. I can't get into it here just in the time frame that we have for this show. I will cover it in a future episode. Maybe I'll have Orange Hat back on here and we can kind of talk more about this too. And by the way, somebody else mentioned this as well. I think Chris Rock is the latest actor who was in the movie Dogma, who has actually met the Pope in real life, which I find it very, very interesting considering the context of the movie Dogma.
I don't think Francis would have watched Dogma, and I don't know. I don't think any of these comedians would have gone to Lakewood and done a little thing with Joel Osteen. So it's not like they're flocking to Protestants, or even
I did love that movie growing up, by the way.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things that Leslie pointed out to you that I would agree with there. But like I said, it's much more complex than I can get to here on this show. So we will do it in a future episode. But I want to shoot this one over here to, we're staying in Hollywood here, but we're going off the religious thing. I want to talk about superhero films because Russell Crowe had a very interesting comment about actors who I guess are looking for more than what they should be looking for in superhero movies. He was kind of pretty blunt about his objection here, if I can get rid of this stupid ad block thing. So if you guys remember a couple of months ago, actually, when Madam Web came out, I think it was Dakota Johnson who came out and basically said that, let's be very, very clear, she buried the movie after it came out. It was a bad movie. Nobody liked it, and she publicly buried it on multiple occasions. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that she was expecting to get something out of the film, and then when she went to do the production for the movie, it turned into be something that she didn't expect it to be, so she completely buried it. And that's why Sony is very, very upset with her. They're somehow trying to blame her for the terribleness of that movie. It's like there was a lot of mistakes that were made before then. But Russell Crowe came out and, based on some similar comments here, said that actors who are expecting comic book movies to be life-changing events, it's like, you're here for the wrong reasons. You're here to do a job. Just play the role. Just shut up and act. That's really what we do here. So this is a photo from him for the latest Thor movie that came out a couple of years ago called Thor: Love and Thunder, which I think everyone hated. I don't think there was a single person who actually truly enjoyed this movie on any conceivable level. But he did play a big role in that film. Now, it says here that he's no stranger to comic book movies. He played Jor-El in Man of Steel, obviously Love and Thunder as well. I think he has a role in Kraven the Hunter, which was just pushed back because, let's be honest, it's probably fucking terrible. But like I said, it goes off the Dakota Johnson's comments here saying that Madam Web felt like art by committee. But if you laughed off the idea of making such films, being superhero films in the future, it says, I don't want to make any comments to what anybody else may have said or what their experiences are, but if you're bringing the impish quality of my humor, said you're telling me that you signed up for a Marvel movie, some fucking universe for cartoon characters, and you didn't get enough. I just started laughing. I just noticed what you just said. Crow said in response, I'm not quite sure how I can make this better for you. It's a gigantic machine. How they make movies at a certain size. These are jobs. You know that they're your role. Play the role. If you're expecting this to be some kind of life-changing event, I think you're here for the wrong reasons. Which, like I said, Russell Crowe is a man who is not known for his subtlety. He's very, very blunt when it comes down to how he feels about the industry here, which is one of the few things I actually do respect about Russell Crowe. Like, he may be nuts in a lot of other ways, but he'll tell you exactly how he feels. So he acknowledges that making superhero movies can be challenging. It requires working opposite of green screens and blue screens, especially if you're working with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But you have to convince yourself a lot more than just the internal machinations of your character. But you have to be, before anything to be, you have to make make it, this is a direct comment on her. I don't know her. I don't know what she went through, and the fact that you have a shit experience on a film. It's like, yeah, you can. He says, but is that the Marvel process? I'm not sure you could say that. Crowe continued. Now, keep in mind, he worked on Love and Thunder, which was a Disney production, and then she worked on a Sony production. So yeah, they did both work on Marvel movies, but it wasn't the same studio. So he's talking about his experience working with Marvel Studios, where she's talking about her experience with working with Sony. So it is a little bit different in that aspect here. But I haven't had a bad experience. But I mean, Thor, okay, it's a Marvel movie, but it's Taika Waititi's world, and we're just giving a gas every day. Be silly. And then with JD Canner on Craven, I'm bringing a little bit of weight to the circumstances. So yeah, the younger actors, they got an actor they can bounce off of. Going to work with JC was fun. You know, so many directors have certain skill level, freaking genius people. And then of course Johnson gave her initial comments here saying, going back to Madam Web, she said a few months back, it's so hard to get these movies made, and these big movies get made, and then they start to happen with the little ones. And this was why what's really freaking me out is the decisions are being made by committee. Art does not do well when it's made by committee. So films are made by a filmmaker and a team of artists around them. You cannot make art based on numbers and algorithms. Now, I'll say this, kind of like an even ground here. I don't necessarily disagree with what any actor has said here, because she's made a point about essentially how these Marvel movies by AIs and committees and all of these prerequisites that they have to do beforehand really just kills the whole art of the film. And at the same time, I totally get what Russell is saying here too. It's like, yeah, it's a stupid comic book movie. It's like, it's not meant to be taken seriously. Just shut up and do your job. I agree with that too. So it's kind of on both sides. John, what's your take on Russell Crowe's comments there about the acting in Marvel movies, or acting in any comic book movie for that matter?
I think with comic book movie, it also depends on the tone, because you know, most comics are just random bullshit anyway, so some aren't really supposed to be taken seriously. I mean, even when it came to like Disney, they just kind of had an assembly line because they all were the same. So that's why most people got tired of, instead of like, you can make a movie, just give it a little bit more creativity. Just like when you have somebody write a comic book, they can still throw in their own creativity if they're writing about Batman or Superman or whoever, to make it a little bit more interesting instead of, you know, usual Batman fights the Joker stuff.
Yeah. Rob, what's your take on Crowe's comments? This was kind of your article, so what was your thoughts on what he said there?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agreed with him. I really wish he would have stopped talking and not given any credit to Taika Waititi. So that kind of like soured me on the first part of it, but that's okay. Look, Russell Crowe has been a great actor. He was a leading man actor 25 years ago. He kind of fell off a little bit, so I understand him doing Marvel movies, but he has the right perspective. You know, he doesn't expect these to be Oscar winners. He's not going to get nominated for Best Actor again like he did in Gladiator. He's not going to be in The Insider, directed by Michael Mann, about how corrupt big tobacco is. You know what I mean? Like, he has done the great sort of acting work that he's loved for. You know, LA Confidential, etc. I mean, he's been in some great movies as a leading man. He understands what the Marvel movie is. He understands it's just a job. And I mean, hey, all of you, it's all of the technicians' job. It's the director's job to bring it to life. I just got to say the line and go, you know, craft services has my sandwich ready. So, and that's fine, especially since he plays that fat, I don't even know who he is, but he's
wasn't he supposed to be Zeus in
Zeus? That's right. Yeah. Because I was like, he's like Thor's dad or something. No, Zeus.
No. Thor's dad was Anthony Hopkins.
I know. Yes, I know. I saw the first one.
I'm so
but that's the idea. It's like I am so out of the mythology that I'm like, okay, who are you? So I think mostly he's right. And you know, look, Dakota Johnson, as much as I have liked her in certain things, doesn't have really a great resume. She doesn't have a great amount of experience. So, and she probably signed up for, what was it, Madam Web, for, you know, like, hey, I'm going to cash in on like the superhero thing. And it was an utter piece of shit and the timing was off. And that's how these things go. It wasn't a good movie. And, you know, you learned your lesson. So hopefully you'll pick better next time. But yeah, I mean, this is preaching to the choir for me. Comic book movies have not been good in a very long time, even at their best. Like even You want to look at Iron Man and The Dark Knight and Watchmen. Like, to me, that was probably the best that it was collectively with those movies. But, you know, everybody has their, you know, their favorites or whatever. But largely these movies are very reductive. They're not complicated. They are there to entertain mass audiences. And for a while there, they were successful. But I really think the public in general after Endgame kind of pulled back. I mean, there's the occasional like sort of hit like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but that seems to be more like an outlier the longer we go after Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think like what was the last like great superhero comic book movie, and I can't really think of one. Like, they've tried to make something that I think in their mind like they thought was going to have that same impact. Like, you can definitely tell like the Batman that what's his name, Robert Pattinson Batman that came out, they thought that that was going to have the exact same feel as the Dark Knight, and it absolutely did not have it like whatsoever. I mean, Marvel has been completely all over the place, but that's what happens when you don't have any kind of like coherent narrative with any of the films. You just throw a random unproven director to direct and write all these movies. They all just seem like mishmash at this point. And then DC doesn't know what the hell it's doing. They put James Gunn in charge, so it's like it's a complete shit show with comic book movies, and I don't even know if they're in any position to recover at this point. So yeah, if you're getting into comic book films at this point in the game, just enjoy the fact you're getting a big check and leave it as that. Don't have any expectations whatsoever for this. Rick, what's your thoughts on Crowe's comments?
Well, it's interesting. I remember when we had the first Superman, the Christopher Reeve one. What they did is they didn't just cast relative unknowns. They cast established actors around them, like Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando in his very mercurial, very oddball way. They did that because they wanted to lend the movie some kind of gravitas, and they wanted to give some name recognition. I mean, you got Glenn Ford in the first Superman, a small part, but that's still Glenn Ford on the screen. Same with Gene Hackman, and all right, Ned Beatty up to a point, but I liked Otis. So that's just my point. Point being, you cast serious actors or actors who are known for not particularly comic book films. You got Jack Nicholson in the first Batman, and Michael Keaton in a role that was completely different. Now you're just getting all of these people who are not known and who are actually known only for their comic book stories, except for Robert Downey Jr. That was kind of a comeback for him. Who really knows what movies Chris Hemsworth has made outside of Thor? I mean, we've already established that he's not a draw. Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, Chris Pratt. Well, he has the Jurassic World thing. Russell Crowe, I think, is the type of actor who knows, hey, this is a role. I'm here to play it. I'm here to be guided by the director. And if the director wants me to play Suze as kind of this oddball who lifts up his skirt as he's skipping down the stairs, that's what I'm supposed to do. All these other actors, if they get into any comic book movie, they're doing it because they think it's going to be a big hit and it's going to make them into big stars and they can pull big paychecks. That hasn't happened. None of the people in the Avengers that I can think of have been big stars. Or have jumped into larger roles because they were associated with Marvel or DC. I mean, how many big films is Ezra Miller going to make with after he was the Flash?
Well, not after his rap sheet.
How many times are you going to cast Jason Momoa to play Professor Henry Higgins? I'm just curious.
If I see that T-Mobile commercial one more fucking time, I swear to God, I'm going to drive to Los Angeles.
And dancing like a Tony Award winner.
My God.
I'm not sure I've seen that commercial. I'm going to have to look for it.
The Super Bowl commercial, too, is awful, and it's still playing.
So I think that Russell Crowe understands that, hey, I'm an actor. My job is to perform a particular role, be guided by the director, go by whatever the script says. All these other actors, if they're trying to find some deep meaning into this, I don't know if it'll work. You can take the part seriously. Christopher Reeve took this seriously, and everyone involved in the movie took it seriously, but not too serious to where it becomes the Batman and it's all morose and misery. You can have a certain lightness to things. Yeah, Russell Crowe. He's not my favorite person, especially after he beat up some poor producer allegedly because he cut his speech for Beautiful Mind allegedly. But when he's right, and here he's right. They're actors. They're actors, and that's their job. Play the part, take the check. That's pretty much it.
All right, Orange, you got anything else to say about this?
Y'all basically covered the points that I would have made, so not really. I have nothing more to add. You guys pretty much covered it good.
Well, we have one last story to talk about here tonight, so this is our closer, and it is the fact that Blade is an absolute mess and it needs to die. So after we did last week's show, about a few hours after the fact, we got confirmation that Blade has now lost its second director in as many years. This is a film that, we got to rewind here for a second. This is a movie that got announced in Comic-Con 2019. I was still in San Diego when this movie was announced for Comic-Con of that year. This has been going through development hell for now 5 straight years. They've changed the script several times throughout the course of this whole thing. They've now changed directors several times throughout this whole thing. And now there's a speculation that Bashar Ali, whatever his name is, whatever, that guy, that he probably is not even going to end up doing this movie. And the reason why he probably won't even end up doing this film is because now he signed up for another film, which is probably going to push this back even further. This is supposed to come out. I do believe this was supposed to come out already. And because of all the pushbacks because they set it up, what Kevin Feige did his little, this is what's coming out this year, guys. Like, they're supposed to be out already, and then it's been pushed back so many times. It's an absolute mess. So here's the kind of the story up to this point. In May 2013, they were working on the script for this. They finally announced 6 years after working on the script that it was going to be in development, that was going to come out in a few years. So then, as that happened, you go to February 2020. They had the first writer on this film, Stacy Kofer, who was the writer, and then they had Basham Tariq, who was set to direct. That was in February and September of 2021. Tariq left the project after a year due to production shifts and creative changes. I wonder what that was. And then Jan Demiraj, whatever his name is, he came in here. He decided to be the director, the second director of this in November 2022. And then they brought in Michael Starberry to rewrite the film. And then when that happened, Nick Pelosi joined the film as another writer in April of last year. Then after that, they brought in Michael Green, who was hired to write a new script for the movie in November of last year. And then by the time we got to June of this year, the second director of this film has now officially left, which has now left Pearson to rewrite the script as of right now, because now they don't have their second director. Filming was supposed to take place in Mexico and the UK later this fall. Now that's in question. This film is scheduled to be released officially on November 7th of next year. However, without a writer or a director, after several rewrites, they're now wondering if this film's even going to see the light of day. Yeah, like I said, this guy's now left the project. This is the second scheduled director who has left this project. This film has had up to 5 screenwriters up to this point too, and so many problems with this. They was talking about earlier, like a couple of years back, that the idea that they wanted to do, which is why so many people were upset, is that they wanted to essentially give the mantle of Blade to his purple hair lesbian daughter, and then she was going to be the Blade character moving forward, and that was obviously going to piss a lot of people off, so no one wanted to be associated with it. Then they said, okay, you know what, we're going to rewrite the script and we're just going to have Blade killing a bunch of vampires, and everyone was like, okay, fine, at least you guys finally figured out what you guys were doing. But yet here we are now 2 months after that announcement, and they've lost their second director. So there is no director for this film. Ali is now working on other projects at the moment, so we don't know when he's even scheduled to do any kind of filming for this. But then again, you can't do filming. There's not even a script to even film. So this whole thing is just an absolute mess. Phase 5 of the MCU is an absolute just complete shit show at this point. I think if you look at was it Phase 6 of the MCU, this is all the 2025 films. So this is all the movies we were supposed to get next year. It was Fantastic Four, which they announced the cast for. I don't think they've started filming that one yet. Blade is an absolute mess that's likely not going to get released next year. We have Avengers 5, where we don't have a team, we don't have a director, we don't have a writer, and we don't have a star because Jonathan Majors got arrested. And then Secret Wars, maybe we'll get that film in 2027. So that's our current state of the MCU at this point in time. John, I'm going to start this off with you as a hardcore active lifestyle nerd. What do you think of just the state of not only just the Blade movie, but just kind of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general right now?
I mean, I was one of those people who said it should have ended with Endgame. Because now, if they're trying to keep doing this thing for years and years and years, it's just, we already know the system, so that's why everybody's tired of superhero movies now. I mean, Blade, it's not hard to make a Blade movie. It's just Disney has the ability to print and make money, and then you just totally fuck up the idea. It makes no sense. Just have them do cool stuff and kill vampires. That's it. It's not hard.
It's not
Blade,
hard, but they made it hard.
Good.
That's the problem.
Yeah, because the first Blade is, it's a classic, and all he did was just kill vampires. Then they messed it up with the next couple ones because they just kept adding more people, and then it just ruined everything.
Feige needs to step down. Feige should justifiably be fired, but then again, we're talking about Disney at this point. I mean, they're not firing Kevin Feige, they're not firing Kathleen Kennedy. It's like they're just allowing these absolute knuckle dragging morons to just tear down all the properties that they spent billions of dollars on over the last several years, and all these properties are just completely rotting away at the seams right now because you got absolute morons who are in charge of this. Rob, what was your take on listening to the progression here of this Blade movie that has been a complete disaster from start to finish?
I mean, I've been out on the MCU for a while now, but because I follow movie news, I still see announcements, I still see things all the time. So I'm only vaguely aware of this timeline because we've talked about the Blade show. It's a Blade show or movie?
Movie.
Sorry, it's a movie. Yeah. I was excited.
Yeah, this is an
I was
echo.
excited at one point because Nick, the guy who did True Detective, Nick Pizzolatto, was connected to it or attached to it. I was like, okay, I'm really interested to see what he does, and he's not even on it anymore, I don't think. But look, I've seen in real time just this is a shit project. If they offered it to me, if as a director, I'd be like, hell no. It's just because it's no, this is a cursed project. I don't know why you can't make seriously, what is even the budget? $30 million, make a gritty Blade John Wick thing. I don't know, but again, it's not hard. We've seen action movies this year that have come out that have been very successful, not spending a lot of money. The Beekeeper, you had Boy Kills World. I think that might be the only two, but there are examples out there of how you can do these things on a smaller budget, something that's more personal to that character where it doesn't even necessarily feel like, I know that's not what they want, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's just another MCU movie. It could actually have personality. Again, I don't think they're interested in that, but I'm out on Marvel. Okay. And look, the original Blade movie wasn't bad, but it seems like they're trying to reconjure that magic or that allure, and it's just not going to work.
Well, Rob reminded me of Godzilla -1. That movie was made for less than what most Marvel movies have made, and it was a hit critically, it was a hit commercially, and it beat out a Marvel movie for best visual effects correctly, in my view. So the people are not learning the lessons that they need to learn. with Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige is supposed to be overseeing all of these projects. He's supposed to be the producer. He's supposed to be the. I hate to make these comparisons. He's supposed to be the Jack Warner, the Daryl Zanuck of Marvel, and he's failing spectacularly because he shows he's not controlling any project. These projects are just going all over the place. I don't understand why you don't have someone oversee all of this. That's the job of the producer, which is what Kevin Feige is supposed to be. He's supposed to be the producer of all of this massive universe. It's just a poor sign. It's a poor sign to have all of these directors leave, all of these screenwriters leave, not being able to understand the source material. And now you have Mahershala Ali, who understandably wants to work. He wants to work. He doesn't want to be waiting around and see his career go down. He signed up for this project because he expected it, like we were talking about in the last segment. He expected this to be a boost to his career, understandably. But now it's just he's seeing his career sink because of this project. This is a 2-time Oscar winner. So of course he's going to go to something else, and I think it's another Jurassic World movie that he's going to be going into. That's probably a better chance for it to be a hit and get his name back up there. So it's going to be strange, but this reminds me of the 1963 Cleopatra, where there was no real script, no real producer, and poor Joseph Mankiewicz was forced to be the producer and nearly died because of the production and of how overwhelming it was. There's no one in charge. No one is minding the store. And really, at this point, I would just say, don't just kill Blade, metaphorically. Don't just kill Blade, the movie. Kill the entire MCU. Let it go. There's no point to this. No one who keeps getting more and more invested in all of this. Even the only hit that they had, the Guardians.
Well, here's the problem, right? Because they got Deadpool and Wolverine coming up here in a couple of weeks, and that movie I think is going to be a success. I think a lot of people are going to go watch that movie. So what's going to happen is that the studio executives at Marvel and Disney are going to go off the success of that movie and be like, oh, we're so back now, let's go even further in on these comic book movies, not realizing that if you look past Deadpool and Wolverine and see what they have past that, they really don't have anything whatsoever. So what you're going to do is that you're going to have a one-off here of people wanting to go see Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman play their roles from like 15 years ago, only to realize that immediately after that you have Black Captain America, which is also a mess. You have Thunderbolts, which isn't a mess yet, but then again, we haven't had time for reshoots yet, so it could be a mess. You have this Blade movie that's a disaster. Fantastic Four can be a cluster, and then the 2 Avengers movies, you don't even have any idea what you're actually going to be doing for either one of those films. And guess what? The Disney Plus series, none of those series have really been interesting. None of them have been a success. I've said that probably the Hawkeye one is the best one by default, but a lot of them have been absolutely abysmal. We all went over Echo. We don't need to go talk about Echo any more than we already have. Like, this is just the reality of where they're at right now. But like I said, a lot of people are going to go watch Deadpool, Wolverine. They'll get the false sense that, hey, comic book movies are back with that movie, and then they'll go even further and double down on terrible decisions.
They will not get the right lessons, because one of the main draws of Deadpool and Wolverine is to get the very flippant Ryan Reynolds and the very dour Hugh Jackman characters together. That's the whole gist. That's going to be the comedy, like the very surly Wolverine against the very quippy Deadpool. And I've never responded to Deadpool. I've never liked the first movie. I didn't like the first movie. I refused to watch the second one. Or is there a third? Or is this the third? I don't care.
It's the Odd Couple and spandex. That's it.
That's pretty much it, and that's going to be the draw. And also the fact that you've got a lot of people who love the Wolverine character, and you've got a lot of people who love the Deadpool character. So they're going to go just for that.
And don't forget too, like Hugh Jackman, like people liked what was it, Logan, the film that came out a couple of years ago. They thought, okay, this is a great end for this character that's been around for like 15 years at this point. And then it's like, well, now Disney has the right, so we got to bring it back for one of these Disney MCU films, right? So let's ruin what we did in Logan just so we can bring him back and justify this other movies that we can do.
But then again,
it's a different version of him.
It's still the same thing. Like this whole multiverse. It's the same nonsense.
That's to me an easy way out. That's to me an easy way out.
Yes.
I mean,
it's like you eventually get a multiverse Iron Man.
It is. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I am just making that clarification.
Oh well, that does. I mean, that's not going to help. I'll just say that they really should just end this whole thing. But if they actually do that, Jacob, they're learning the wrong lessons, or they're not learning any lessons.
It's Disney. Wouldn't have they ever learned? What about anything that Disney has done over the last 10, 20 years that make you think that they're incapable of learning a lesson? Have you not seen what's happened with Star Wars over the last 10 years? Have they learned any lessons with Star Wars? What makes you think they're learning lessons with Marvel?
They learned great lessons with the remake of Little Mermaid and the live action Mulan.
That did game busters, right?
They learned those.
Well, what about Lightyear? They learned some great lessons with Lightyear too. Remember?
Oh gosh, yeah. No,
it's like Disney's on it real quick, and I'll let Orange go. But Disney's on a streak here where I think 9 of the last 9 films in like the last 2 or 3 years have all lost like over $100 million each.
Yeah,
this is the streak that they're on.
Yeah, they need to defrost Uncle Walt right now and get him back in charge.
Yeah, go ahead, Orange.
The thing is, I've been saying it ever since the first trailer came out that Deadpool Wolverine is Disney's biggest fucking scam. Because all this shit is sucking right now, and everybody are going to flock to this one. They're going to say, as you guys said, movies are back. We finally got the audiences, and they're going to think they're vindicated. They're going to think that they finally did something right, and people are going to think that Disney finally got the point, and it's just going to embolden them. I've been saying it for fucking weeks, months even, and people are like, oh, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Fuck all of you who said that. Because look at what is going on currently with Disney. They are shitting on everything. And you don't think that they're going to have a little bit of creative control in this movie? I guarantee you they will. But as for this Blade thing, fucking Wesley Snipes is piping up and freaking trolling these guys. He's trolling them. And it's like, I'm just sitting here laughing because I already did my Blade and everybody fucking loves it. You guys can't even fucking do your Blade because you're freaking losing writers and all that shit. And now you're possibly even going to lose your lead. So it's like, I mean.
Yeah, so this is the Wesley Snipes tweet here. Yeah. Just real quick, It says, Blade, lordy, folks still trying to look for the secret sauce. Riding snowmobiles in traffic kind of rough. Daywalkers making it look easy, don't they? And this is obviously a reference to the multitude of problems with this Blade movie. And it's like, and look, you gotta keep in mind too, like Ali, when they announced this film, I believe was only like in his like late 40s. So they thought that they were at least going to get a few movies out of him without all the problems. If this film ever does see the light of day, he's going to be, 54 by the time that this film comes out? It's like, if that's the case, you could have just brought back Wesley Snipes into the Blade movie.
Yep. And it's like, holy shit, you guys just don't fucking get it. And he's right. Get rid of the MCU, call it quits, get ready for your freaking revamp, and then start from fucking scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in fairness, and I'm trying to be very positive here.
Why?
I'm an optimist. I will give them 1 year because of the pandemic. I'll say, okay, instead of took you 6 years, okay, I'll cut you a slack for that 1 year when you really couldn't do anything. Other than that, though, there's no one in charge at Marvel. Kevin Feige. Yeah, to all the people who wanted to give him an honorary Oscar for all these Marvel movies, you people are stupid. He should go. He really should go because he's obviously not in charge. A real producer would have said, no, we're going to have a script locked in by such and such time. We're going to start production at such and such time. We're going to have this movie out by such and such time after the editing process and post-production. No, instead, no, I'm going to just let endless writers come in and out. I'm going to lose 2 producers, and I'm still going to be sinking money. Because think about it. You have to pay these writers while they're working. Even if they quit, you still have paid them. You have to pay these directors to do meetings and set up pre-production and go through casting. You're still paying all these people. You are still sinking money into this production even before it hits cameras. What is wrong with you? How can you keep your job after this? How can you even justify keeping your job after you're sinking this? This is why
Everybody
20th
was
Century
saying that
Fox.
about Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, well, here's the same thing with her. This is what almost sunk 20th Century Fox, because they kept sinking money into a production that was almost destroying them because no one was in charge, and they were just letting people, was the inmates running the asylum. And now we have this. Please, people, the board and the stockholders really should just revolt and just demand all their heads, and just get rid of them and just kill the MCU. It's not profitable. Nobody cares, or very few people care, other than his generation's Roger Ebert. No one really cares.
It's done. It's been done for at least 5 years. So let's be very honest here.
Yeah.
People say it should have ended at Endgame. I say you probably could have stopped it at Infinity War. We didn't need Captain Marvel. It had no value. We could have just stopped at Infinity War. Be like, nope, that's it. Bad guy wins. Go home, everyone.
How could you leave it like that when you had all these people crying when Spider-Man got disintegrated?
Yep. That's the last sight you're ever going to see of the MCU. Spider-Boy dies. The end.
You mean Tony Stark Jr.? You couldn't leave it at that.
Well, here's the thing. For years, the worst thing that I could have called him was Spider-Boy. Then I saw that movie where he was getting booty-gooned by a giant black man, and I was like, you know what? Maybe Spider-Boy was probably the best thing I could have called him, all things considered. But
maybe that was his way of paying reparations. I don't know.
No, he got his reparations all right.
Come on! It's Juneteenth tomorrow. Let's not talk that way. So,
any final thoughts on Blade here before we wrap things up?
Yeah, Mahershala Ali needs to officially say that he's withdrawing from the role. It may be that will do one of 2 things: either kill the project entirely, or have another actor come in.
If he drops out of the movie's dead. At that point, there's absolutely no point, unless you're going to be like, hey, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to bring back Wesley Snipes. Like there's no point in moving forward at that point.
You could always have that. Was it that blue-haired lesbian take over? And I'm sure the audience would be thrilled.
But he's the only. And here's the thing, and you should know this because you know how Hollywood works. This is the only reason this project is alive, is because there's a 2-time Oscar winner attached to it. Stars get shit made, get shit greenlit. I do not know who is in head of production here. They are severely shooting themselves in the foot with this entire production. I just can't believe that it's the same people who have rolled out all of these Marvel movies all of these years. It's like, are you sure it's the same company? Because it doesn't seem like it.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, they're probably just going to have to get like a young kid to play a young Blade or something.
It would be like some 20-year-old. So, like I said,
hey, Jaden Smith is free.
You might as well just get Justice Smith at that point.
Just slightly off topic. I mean, this is the company that
Blade.
You know, they were, and I know that there were certain contract stipulations or what you couldn't do because it would have been too close to the Netflix series and all that shit. But really, they ruined that series. They had a perfect blueprint of what to do, of what people wanted, and they didn't do that. So, okay.
Have Justice Smith do a Blade anime crossover, call it Gay Blade with a Bay Blade. And on that note, we're gonna wrap this show up. So there we go. Yeah, I just absolutely love Justice Smith. He's just great. He's amazing.
He's his generation Sidney Poitier.
Shut the hell up. Anyway, so let's go ahead and end this night here. Our good buddy Orange. Let's go ahead and start things off with you. Where can people find you if they want more of your stuff? People have to hear you to figure out where they're gonna go.
You can find me on X at any of those 2 links. You You can also find me on Instagram, where I don't do entertainment stuff. I just remix reels and make funny shit on Instagram. Also, tomorrow I'm talking Jurassic Park with my friend Jade Shadow on her channel at 8 p.m. Exclusively on X on Thursday. I'm talking The Saint with Val Kilmer. And then it's Orange Hat Uncensored on Friday. And Sunday is going to be weekly recap, where me and Kate from Nerd with a Cigar are going to be talking The Acolyte and other sort of Hollywood topics. So yeah, make sure that you drink for that one, because you're definitely going to need to be inebriated. From what I'm hearing, this latest episode is truly horrible. But yeah. And other than that, I'm thinking about getting a new Monday stream going, which is either going to be Monday Night Readings or Monday Night Rants. I have a thing on this Twitter. It's a poll, so go vote there, whichever one you want. And yeah, that's it. Or I'm also trying to get to 2,000 subs. So if you want to sub to my channel, that will help as well.
All right. John, you made your first appearance back on the show in 2 years, so we look forward to your next appearance in 2026. Where can you find? You got anything you want to promote here just while you're
here? Nothing. I just come out here every now and then to, I guess, talk about whatever's happening in the world. I mean, I have
every
no
now
YouTube
and then.
channel or nothing.
Every now and then it's the perfect way. Hey, when's the next Euro? 2028. That's probably the next one that comes out. I gotta shout out
to more often. I guess I'll try to hop on like a movie review or something one of these days. But there hasn't been any really good movies coming out.
And man, we've watched a lot of movies this year. There has not been that many good movies come out this year. But one person who knows about bad movies is Rick. What do you got coming up?
Yeah, I've just got my reviews, and I'm starting something that's just for my own amusement. I am doing a Golden Girls retrospective, where I'm going to watch every single Golden Girls episode and try to make sense of it all. And other than that, it's just really more baseball games and more reviews. Just just trying to clear out my DVR, and that's pretty much it. Just reviews and Golden Girls retrospective.
All right, and then never mind. Rob, you're the last one.
Yeah. Hey guys. So the Bike Riders is coming out I guess Thursday, but I'll probably see it Friday. So I think we're gonna review that on Tuesday. I'm not sure, but I'm looking forward to that one. That's actually one of my I don't know, one of the movies I'm looking forward to this year. There's really not much out there. And then Horizon the week after. Hitman was pretty good on Netflix. But yeah, I kind of thought people were gonna, we're just in that period right now where things are crappy. So the smallest like okay movie is gonna get like, oh, this is great, and it's like it's just okay. So yeah, no, I have reviews coming out. I have Dune Part 2, which I released this week, and I'm just gonna keep knocking them off. I've got Love Lies Bleeding and Arthur the King to get out next. And then I also am very behind on getting my 100 best Westerns of all time list out. But yes, I'm going to get that out next week once I have that finalized. And then, of course, I have my podcast, which I need to set a regular time for now that I have a job. So just keep watching my Twitter for that. And that's where you can find me.
All right, letting you guys know what I got coming up here. So I think Friday, me and Nerdigans are going to try to do a review for the Digimon movie that came out not too long ago. I don't know if she's confirmed with Friday, so if not, I'll hopefully have a confirmation on that in the next couple of days, but that's kind of where we're shooting for. Tomorrow I'm going to be on the 01 podcast with Cider, Nerdigans, Spencer, and Josh, and we'll be talking about a lot of the big stories going on right now. That's tomorrow night at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. actually. Cider will be doing his part of the show, then we'll jump on later on. After that, outside of that, this coming Sunday, we have the Bible Lens podcast. Going to be talking about modern day Moloch worship, and if trans kids is actually a representation of people literally worshiping a demonic god, quite literally. And if you guys liked our episode a couple of weeks ago, thought that was eye-opening, this one will be very, very eye-opening when we talk about modern day Moloch. So that'll be on Sunday. Next week here on the Barroom podcast, we will be doing a review on the Bike Riders movie when that comes out. I've seen it already. I saw it early. Rob and Rick will see it later on this week, but that will be our review for next week. Then we'll have a couple of other stories to talk about as well too. So for everyone who joined us here tonight, Neozoic, we also have here Leslie Tarkin, Spencer, Vanya, Tactus, Maurice, Gothic Queen, Eddie, Brock, JS, Rooftop Korean, Henry, all you guys who joined us for tonight's show. Thank you very much to all my guests here. Thank you very much for joining me for another show. We will see you guys on Sunday night. If not, I'll see you guys next week here on the show. Well, so we'll keep you in tune if it's going to happen on Friday night. Outside of that, adios, goodbye, good night. We're hitting the outro and we're going to sleep. Good night.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out!
You get the hell out!
Never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James, bitch.